So introducing Matt. So Matt is the CEO of One Zebra. So One Zebra, they're a company that they help companies get more customers, they close more sales. And how they do that is they create marketing and sales communications, content, strategies, and really sort of the focus is helping businesses to get noticed. So Matt's going to really help today about the power of storytelling and other areas that he can help. So Matt, thanks very much for coming on to the Sales Huddle today.
No problem. Pleasure to be here.
So firstly, was that a good intro, or do you want to tweak that to get the messaging a bit different?
That was a pretty good intro. I maybe need to, at the end of this, I'll give you my updated one-liner and then see how you go next time.
Okay, cool. Is there anything that you want to further add to what you and One Zebra provides?
No, this is not about me. This is about all the guys that I think, in terms of those who are on the call, all the salespeople, or those who are involved in selling, running a business, whatever it might be. So let's make it about these guys today.
Great. So one of the things that you help people is with the power of story and the power of story branding. And I think more relevant today than it is ever before in terms of the messaging that we have with clients and the difference in emotions that people probably have now than what they did at the start of the year. So can you tell us a bit more about story and the power of story branding?
Yeah, so can I share my screen? And I've got a couple of slides I'll walk you guys through just to kind of introduce that to you and why it matters. So give me a second. Okay, so you should now see a picture of a head and a brain on the screen. Do you see that?
If you can see it, just chat yes into the chat, please.
So hopefully everyone can see that. So in order to understand why the power of story matters so much, let me know if someone can't, Liam, otherwise I'll crack on.
I think you're fine, crack on.
All right, so in order to understand why the power of story matters so much, we need to first understand how the human brain works. And this is everyone. So all of your customers, the people that work with you, anyone you speak to, we're all hardwired essentially in the same way. And our brains are hardwired to do two things. The first thing that our brains are hardwired to do is to essentially keep us alive, to survive and thrive. So in the context of sales, messaging, and what we say to our customers, as we go about our day, and as you're speaking to those people or you're messaging those people, their brains are processing what you say or what you write. And the context of that is, does this help me survive and thrive? And I mean that by, does it help me put food on the table? Does it help me get ahead in my job? Does it help me live my life better? Does it help me somehow get ahead in the world in some way, shape or form? Whether I'm B2B, B2C, doesn't matter. You're selling to a human being, and that's how their brains process that information. So what that means is if what you're saying doesn't somehow contribute to their survival, to help them thrive, then they are going to instinctively tune you out. And your brains do this without you even realizing it. So we're very good at tuning out the messages that come at us every day. So statistically, the average human being will see something in excess of 3,000 commercial messages in a 24-hour period. And that's pretty scary when you think that's what you're competing with. You're not just competing with your competition, you're competing with a whole lot of noise, an overwhelming amount of noise, in fact. Now, the second thing
my friend. Thank you.
The second thing that your brains are trying to do is conserve calories. So whilst you're going about your day and you're processing information, your brains are trying to conserve calories. So your brain is something like 2% of your body weight, but it consumes 25% of your daily calorie consumption. Can we mute him?
Yeah, so bear with me.
I can't do it from my end. So your brain is 2% of your body weight, but consumes 25% of your daily calorie consumption. And it does that, it burns those calories processing information. So what that means is anything that you say to your customers, if it doesn't help them survive and thrive, they tune you out. The good news is that story has a way of capturing people's attention. I'm going to give you a kind of a 7-part storytelling framework to filter your messaging through. Before I do that, let me just give you a quick analogy. I want you to imagine next time you have a conversation or you send some kind of message through LinkedIn or whatever it might be with a customer, I want you to imagine that each piece of information that you give them is like an 8-pound bowling ball. Okay. So each idea that you share with them, each kind of thing you share is like an 8-pound bowling ball. Now they can handle one idea and they'll remember that and they'll take that away. They maybe will handle 2, but what's going to happen when you give them 3 things or more? They're going to drop the lot. They're going to drop the lot and they're not going to remember anything you said. And this is so common, it's scary. So one of the biggest frustrations I've had historically with salespeople is they try and say too much. They're trying to share too much. They're trying to share too many benefits. You've got to really focus in on what you say. Otherwise, the customer forgets it. And when you do that, you create confusion and ultimately you're less likely to close the sale. So this is the story brand messaging filter. There's 7 parts to that. And in essence, it's built on the age-old art of storytelling. So using stories is not a new thing. We've been told for a long time we should be great storytellers, right? But actually, it's not about telling a great story about your business. It's actually about inviting customers into a story. So I'm going to very quickly walk you through these 7 things now. But if you want more info, there's a whole bunch of more info I can share later. But in essence, every story you see, every movie you go and watch, right? When you go to the movies, you're sucked into a movie for 2, maybe 3 hours. And that's formulaic. So script writers know this. They know how to pull you in, keep your attention for 2 to 3 hours. And right towards the end, until the end of that movie, and it's deliberate. And every story starts with a character who wants something. So Liam Neeson in Taken wants to rescue his daughter. His daughter's been kidnapped. Luke Skywalker wants to become a Jedi and defeat the evil Empire. Katniss in the Hunger Games wants to protect her sister and ultimately survive. And what happens in the first 5 minutes of a movie is they plant what they call a story loop. So they open a story loop. So will the character get what they want? And movies that don't do that in the first 5 or 6 minutes, those are the movies that you tune out of. They're the ones you switch off because they are not following the rules of story. And the same is true for your customers. So if you're not talking about what it is that ultimately your customer wants and the problems that are getting in the way of what they want, that's what causes them to tune out. So a character who wants something encounters a problem and then meets a guide. So in movies, this guide character will always be there. There may be one, maybe more. In Star Wars, it's Luke Skywalker, it's Obi-Wan Kenobi and Yoda. In Hunger Games, it's Haymitch. And this character exists everywhere. As far as your marketing and your sales messaging is concerned, you are the guide, all right? You are not the hero of the story. But what tends to happen, and salespeople tend to do, is they tend to jump far too quickly into, here's what we do, here's how we can help you, and they're talking more and more about their business. And what the customer hears is, okay, you sound like another hero, but actually I'm looking for a guide to help me win the day. Great story, I'll come back to it another time. What you need to do is position yourself as the guide to help the customer win the day. And the characteristics of a guide are empathy and authority. And again, there's much more detail around how you do that, but it's about positioning yourself as the guide to help them win the day. So the story needs to be about them. Don't be a great storyteller, be great at inviting your customers into a story where they win the day. All right, so at this point, the customer may be thinking, okay, great, you can help me out, but they're still not going to work with you because actually at this point, they're at risk. So we need to give them a plan, and we need to simplify that plan. There may be 20 steps to implementing your product or taking on board your service, but you need to simplify that into ideally 3 steps, maximum 4. Do this, do this, do this. And by doing that, actually, you're removing the sense of fear that I'm going to have to do something, or I'm going to be putting myself, whether it be my reputation or money or time, at risk. You then need to call them to action. So no hero takes action unless they're called to action. Liam Neeson's daughter is kidnapped. Luke Skywalker's aunt and uncle are killed. Katniss's sister is volunteered or is chosen to go into the Hunger Games. That is the call to action. For you, your call to action is you've got to ask for the sale, or you've got to ask for the next meeting, or you've got to ask for whatever it might be. Call to action that results in success or failure. Success is the easy bit. Here's what happens if you work with us. here's what success looks like in the future. Here's what your life will look like if you buy this product or if you use our service. But conversely, and the thing that people tend to shy away from is failure. So in every single story you watched, there is always something at stake. Always something at stake. So let's go back to Taken. Liam Neeson's daughter is kidnapped. If 20 minutes into that movie, Liam Neeson rescues his daughter and they spend the rest of the movie rebuilding their relationship, shopping in London, you are not going to watch that movie. That is a bad movie that nobody wants to see. The reason you keep watching is because you're constantly torn between success and failure. Will they succeed? Will they fail? Something good happens, and then they take a step backwards. Something good happens, and they take a step backwards. Right up until the end, up until what they call the climactic scene, when ultimately that hero wins the day. The same is true for your customer. You need to be crystal clear about what is at stake for them, and you need to talk about it. It comes with a caveat here that you don't want to be a fearmonger. You need to find some balance here, and there needs to be a lot more talk about success than failure, but you still need to remind them what the consequences potentially are. So that is a very, very quick run through of the 7-part framework. That's how, and if you filter your messaging through that, when you start talking to your customers, you will absolutely resonate with them more and close more business.
Cheers, Matt. Just for anyone, any of the participants, if you've got questions, just add them into the Q&A as you go along. One thing I wanted to understand, so there'll be people in this sales huddle that are from maybe like a more junior, like SDA, SDR position, and there'll be some that are sales managers.
Yep.
And this story brand messaging, can it apply to anything? So can it be if I want to just get to the gatekeeper or get through the gatekeeper, sorry, or could it be that I want to just book a meeting with the decision maker? Does it apply to different scenarios? Yeah, so in every situation, so let's take the gatekeeper example, right? So you need to get through the gatekeeper, you need to get through the PA in order to get to the business owner or to the CEO or wherever it might be. The gatekeeper is, at that point in time, the gatekeeper is the hero of your story. So what is it that they want? What is more important to them? So for them, it's usually, I've been told, don't put someone through to me who's going to waste my time. So it's about understanding how is it that I help them win the day in the context of their role as PA to that CEO. So what are their internal frustrations? So when you come back, if you go back to the problem, part 2 of this framework, there are actually 3 levels of problem. There's the external problem, internal problem, and philosophical problem. So the external problem is the thing that's getting in the way. The internal problem is the feeling that's manifested as a result of that external problem. And at some level, that is just philosophically wrong. So you need to figure out what's the external problem. But actually, and this is where, again, salespeople will often speak to, okay, we can solve the external problem. That's all well and good, but human beings don't buy or move or take action because of an external problem. They buy because of the internal frustration that they need to resolve, or they want to look better, or they want to be better, or be a better version of themselves. That exists for that PA. That exists, and again, if you're a sales manager, same thing. Sales manager's job is obviously to get the best out of their team. So it's the same when you talk to people in your team. What is it? How can I help position myself as the guide to that member of my sales team? What's getting in the way of them getting what they want? Or what do they want? Actually, I've seen this with sales managers that I've had in my teams in the past. They're not crystal clear on the different members of their sales team and actually what they aspire to. What does it mean for them if they hit their target? It's not just about hitting a target. It's what does that result in? How can they buy that car, that house, that whatever? So in answer to your question, yes, absolutely. You can use this to craft the message that you deliver to any human being, because story it's global. It crosses all boundaries, all cultures, all nationalities. It doesn't matter who you're speaking to. Everybody, our entire society is built on the ability to compose and engage people through story. And what do you think now? So when you take on a client and you look at their existing messaging, do you see any trends or do you see any common issues that immediately that you can solve through this messaging?
Yeah, I think the most common one, let me flick to my next slide and I'll explain to you what I tend to see. So I was chatting to you guys about this before. 3 stages of a relationship: curiosity, enlightenment, and commitment. And the most common problem, and these are hard and fast rules. Every relationship, every sales relationship with your client, any relationship for that matter, goes through these 3 stages: curiosity, enlightenment, commitment. And what typically happens is we tend to, and I see this on websites, I see this, the number of emails I get on LinkedIn or direct emails selling me something, what they tend to do is they jump straight to commitment. Hey, Matt, we've got this great thing that we do. Can I have a meeting? And I don't reply, because you've jumped straight to commitment. You've not built any level of curiosity in who you are or what you do. You've not enlightened me on how you're going to solve my problems or frustrations that I might have. You've jumped straight to commitment. So I think that is the single biggest mistake that certainly salespeople make, is sending emails or making phone calls, and their opening line on their phone call is usually something where they're either jumping to stage 2 or even to stage 3 to try and sell me something.
And is there, would you say, an amount or a volume of conversations where you should be opening with only curiosity and enlightenment and not really focusing on commitment before you gain their trust to get commitment?
I think that's a question, and the answer to that is it depends, because you can take someone through those 3 stages in the space of 5 minutes, depending on what you sell and what you do, right? So, if let's take my garden, right? So if my back garden is a mess, and the gardener around the estate walks up, my other gardener's just left for whatever reason. Now, and he says to me, listen, I notice your garden's a mess. Actually, I can come in twice a week and make it look awesome, so that when you bring people around for a barbecue, you're going to be proud to have people come around and look at your back garden. That's curiosity, enlightenment, commitment in a sentence. I'm simplifying here, right?
Yeah.
But the point is if he came around and said, I charge 150 dirhams a month to do your garden. Do you want me to come and do your garden? He's jumped straight to commitment.
Yeah. Same
service, same product, but I'm more likely to have a conversation with the first one. So it depends. I think you've got to understand that, who is your customer? What do they want as it relates to your product? What are their frustrations? What's the angst that they are feeling? And if you can speak to that, and if you can encapsulate that in a very concise way, then you will capture people's attention. But it takes effort to be concise, right? It's harder to write a short message or to compose a short sentence that you open a call with. It takes time to think about it. You've got to burn the calories. Otherwise, you're asking your customer to burn the calories. Amazing. Figuring out what it is that you do. So I would say, wherever possible, try and take your customer through those 3 stages, through social, you're messaging people through social. And right now, in the midst of what we're in at the moment, I wouldn't be going anywhere near commitment at all, unless I have something that genuinely can help people right now. I would err on the side of, and I'm saying this to my customers, build curiosity, offer value, enlighten people about what you do, or give some of that away if you possibly can. Again, it depends, right? It depends on your business, but as much as possible, think about those 3 stages and ask yourself, are you taking people through them?
Great stuff. So if we can jump back onto my screen, if possible.
Yeah, sorry, let me stop that share.
Cheers, buddy.
Is there any questions there? I see some chat coming up. Can you list an example?
I think the gardener analogy worked quite well, so I think we might. But guys, if you've got any other questions, do jump in. I think we've got one. No, I think we're good to go. Okay.
All right.
So I think you've touched on it really well. One thing that I'd probably want to understand is, before you even pick up the phone or before you even email, what could a sales rep be doing, and what could they be looking at in order to sort of formulate the best content and messaging before they've even thought about picking it up?
Okay, yeah, great question. So if you're a sales development rep, if you're there kind of teeing up sales meetings, sales calls for a lead salesperson, for example, I think personalization is one of the most important things you can focus on. So if you think about it, outside of selling, right, in our daily lives, as we go about our days, everything more and more everything we see now is typically personalized. So you go through your social media feed and it's personalized to you based on what you clicked on, what you liked, whether it's LinkedIn or Facebook or Insta or whatever. You know, what you see on Amazon when you go and buy something, it's personalized to what you've chosen before. You know, I saw you bought this, would you like to buy this? On travel websites, so in every aspect of our lives, we're seeing more and more personalization. So actually now what we expect is personalization. But then what sales reps often do is fail to do that. So they send generic emails that, I mean, the worst offenders are those who don't put a first name. So your basics have got to be, you know, you need to know someone's name. But then you go on from that and it's then just a generic copy paste email. And I'm going to ignore you every single time. So in my previous roles right now, unless you speak to something that could be relevant to me, I'm probably going to ignore you, unless you happen to get lucky. And luck is, great salespeople are not lucky, in my opinion. So I think what you should be doing is, you know, check that person out on LinkedIn, have a look at not just their profile, because that's probably not been updated for a while. What have they posted? What have they liked? What have they commented on? What groups are they a member of? And then try and find something something relevant to personalize. So you might be able to send half the amount of emails, but I would argue that I've seen it time and time again that you will get a greater response, because now you're sending a message to somebody that has some relevance to them. I saw you posted this article, that's really interesting, blah, 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 whatever it might be. Okay. So I think research and personalize when you're reaching out to people.
So we've had a question. So how do you identify pain points when speaking to a DM in times like these when they have different priorities and aren't willing to have a proper conversation in a cold call?
Yeah, great question. I mean, right now is probably not a time, it's a completely unique scenario we find ourselves in, right? So most of the world is frozen in place, focused on, actually it comes right back down to the basics of survival. Can I keep my company going? Can I keep my job? And because without those things, I then lose the ability to look after my family. So actually, unless what you have offers them some way out of that pain, then actually I think it's a matter of not trying to do that right now. Yeah. And it sounds like a harsh reality, but I think that is the reality. I think those companies who will emerge from this crisis strong are those who will be less aggressively offering support to be able to help those companies, pointing them in the direction of something useful, or sharing some useful content, or like what you guys are doing now. This is a great example of, okay, this is a community thing, right? So let's offer some value to the community to help them somehow get ahead. There's no trying to find out what your pain points are. Outside of that, to find out pain points, I think it's about understanding, for example, you might look at that industry. So if someone sits in a specific industry, there are usually common frustrations and pain points. You know, if you're a tech company and you're selling into the education space, it doesn't take too much effort to work out what are the common frustrations faced in that space when it comes to tech. So, and then I think you can then start to make some assumptions. Now, you might not be right every time, but if you know which system, for example, a particular company uses, and you know that they're in a particular industry, then you could make some assumptions about what their frustrations might be. And then it's important to recognize, okay, that there's the external problem and then there's the internal frustration. So how might that make them feel? Do they feel under pressure and short of time because that system causes them problems? Do they feel embarrassed that they can't report their numbers up to their boss? So it's embarrassment that's the problem, not that they can't report the numbers. They're embarrassed, or they fear for the future of their role, or they fear that they're not going to get progression in their career. That's the reason they take action, not the original reason. It goes back to the gardener analogy, right? I don't pay a gardener because I want a gardener. I pay a gardener because I don't want my garden to look terrible and be embarrassed in front of my neighbours or my friends when they come around.
Or your
It's
gardener.
Embarrassment.
It
looks all right. Yeah, go for it.
Would you keep more focus on research or on communication to figure out a client's needs, and why?
Is that written in there? Would you keep more focus on research? Okay, yeah, got it. or on communication to figure out a client's needs and why. I think there's a balance. So I think the other, again, you would have seen this with salespeople, is they can sometimes get into kind of analysis paralysis, right? You spend way too much time with your head researching something and not enough time communicating. I think you've got to have a couple of key points, do your research, but then focus on communication whilst managing expectations. Don't overdo it. Don't bother someone too much.
Yeah, I think here as well is one thing is, like, throughout my career, I've seen emails that are short. I've seen emails that are like dissertations, and I've seen emails that sort of hit the spot within certain demographics and certain types of people that you're trying to sell to. I think testing is something that has to be done. I think, you know, as long as you keep a key structure, just try things, try and tweak, see what works, see what doesn't. Think about the timing of your emails, thinking about the looping of the research that you've done. But what I don't want to endorse is that you spend a lot of time researching, because the outreach is important. You have to touch the clients. So make sure you do that, not at the expense of a lot of time wasted through your researching.
So I see two good questions on there, Liam. The first one, you say, we should stop selling, but I need to keep my job. Great point, and I empathise. What's the balance? My first question back would be, well, what do you sell? And it's not that you should stop selling. So just to be clear, selling is not just about asking for the sale. Selling is about building a relationship, building credibility, building reciprocity. What I'm saying actually is that you should continue to build credibility and reciprocity, but just be very cautious about jumping to commitment and looking to try and sell when it's not, if it's not a major priority in this completely random situation that we find ourselves in. So, I mean, but it's a great point, and I know it's not easy. I absolutely understand that. You know, I run a business myself, and it's very hard to know where to strike the right balance and how to keep that going without letting your business fail. The second question I see there, Liam, is I've recently been made unemployed, and I'm so sorry to hear that. How can I use my story branding messaging to help find a new role? It's a great question. So let's think about your LinkedIn profile. Your LinkedIn profile is an opportunity, for example, to showcase the things that you've done to help resolve problems. So if you are approaching companies, or if you're if you're creating your profile, think about the kind of businesses that you would be relevant for, the kind of things that you've done in the past, and think about the problems that those businesses might have. So if you're doing proactive reach out, or if you're putting stuff on your profile, think about the problems that you can potentially resolve, or how you could make life better for the companies that might want to employ someone like you. So rather than it being about you, here's a list of my skills. Talk about, here's a list of things I've resolved. Or if you're going to reach out to a business unit head, reach out to them and think about the frustrations they might be facing, and speak to them, speak to those internal frustrations, and talk about how you show empathy and authority that you've solved that problem before. So if it's about sales, listen, you're probably struggling right now, but 1, 2, and 3, here's what I've done in the past to help companies resolve that frustration. So that's how I would use that messaging to story brand your experience. Position yourself as the guide to the employer.
I know that person was anonymous, but do reach out to me, Liam, at KinFitz.com, and we can discuss how we can help as well. We've got a few questions, but I'm conscious of time. So what I wanted to do is jump into the next part of the exercise. So at the start, we asked you to write down your opening client statement and pitch. Hopefully Matt has enlightened you and has offered some of his wisdom about things like curiosity, enlightenment, and storytelling. So I'd like you now just to spend 2 minutes to create your revised opening pitch. Again, 2 sentences max. And if you want to share it, just put it onto the chat, and then Matt could pick a couple out and just sort of critique and see if he can help, or if it's a job well done. So
can I offer one more thing before they do that, Liam?
Go for it.
Just very quick. Can you, if you take your slides off, let me just share something with you quickly because I think this is quite a valuable tool, particularly right now. Hold on. Share, make sure I share the right one. All right, so you can see that now, I believe. All right. So what we're really talking about here is kind of like your opening line, your one-liner, and this is it's a shortened version of your elevator pitch, something you can use networking on a business card and in an email to a client. So I'm going to go through this quickly, but I've also got a video on this on my website. Happy to share that afterwards if it's useful. So let me give you an example of a one-liner. So this is the response to the question. So what do you do? And it's the same if you're introducing yourself to a new client. So for me, it would be something like this. When someone says, so what do you do? Rather than saying, well, what I do is I'm a marketing consultant, which is like, well, that's really interesting, Matt. I would say, well, actually, most business leaders struggle to talk about what they do. So we have a communication framework that helps people clarify their message. When you get your message clear, word spreads about your company, customers engage more, and your business grows. So I've got some other examples, but I'm kind of pushing through this here. So this is how you would create a one-liner. So if you break that up, right? This is another one here, another example. So it's in 3 parts. Most people get super annoyed trying to hide ugly cords in their home, right? So we've all, maybe not all, some of us might have beautiful setups with their TVs at home, but a lot of us will have those kind of ugly cords behind your TV. What you're doing there is you're starting with the problem. So you need to open up with the customer's problem. So if you meet someone for the first time, if you engage with a customer, try to speak to them at that level. So most people get super annoyed. Annoyed is that frustration, trying to hide ugly cords in their home. So that's something that would resonate with people. You then come in with your solution at this point. So we do custom installation of TVs, speakers, lighting, you name it. So that's how you help them resolve their problem with your solution. And then you ramp up success. So so the end of this one is so people can have beautiful homes they are proud of and easily control everything from an app. So with success there, you're talking about beautiful homes they are proud of. So if you can see the transformation, so in a sentence, you've gone from super annoyed, frustrated to proud of your home because it looks great. And again, I've used a real simple example here. But when you craft your one-liners, try to think of them in that order: problem, solution, success. As opposed to things and I've seen this a lot with pre-lockdown at networking events. People will walk up and say, well, my granddad started the company 75 years ago, and so on and so on and so forth. It's lovely that your granddad started a company, but frankly, I don't care. And, can you actually help me survive and thrive in some way? And I'm going to tune you out. You need to focus on these 3 steps. And that's how you want to build curiosity. If I've got this problem, I'm then going to say to you, okay, so help me understand that. Then you've invited me into a story. So sorry, back to you, Liam. Or maybe I'll leave that on the screen.
Yeah, no, right. I think keep this on the screen. So if you can do it in 2 or 3 sentences, change your opening pitch, one-liner, and just share it into chat, and then we'll just pick a couple out, and Matt, you can critique. So I'll give you a couple of minutes, guys. One more minute. Don't be shy. We've got an expert here to help. I think we have one. Okay, 30 more seconds. I think, is Reem going to break through, or has it just got one line? Whilst we wait, we've had a question. Matt, how many interactions did your one-liner go through until you were happy? And what is the process for trialing the interactions?
Mine, good question. I mean, mine's evolved in the time that this business has been in existence. How many times? Many, I would say. So what I did is I went to every networking event. So when I first launched the business, I went to every networking event I could find. And I basically tried different versions of my one-liner on different people. And not, I mean, even just before networking events, I would try it on people I knew. But the problem is with people I knew that it's not, it just doesn't, it's not, there's no context to it. It's not real enough. So I went to lots of networking events and tried different things. And I just looked at people's reactions and looked to see which version seemed to resonate the best and which just rolled off my tongue better. So when I first, first started doing that, it was different to what it is now, because actually the problems have evolved. So I think it's an ongoing thing. But say it out loud, you know, and if you've got people in your team as a business, ideally as a business, the one-liner should, as a process, what I tend to do when I work with clients is we get them to figure out their one-liner for their entire business. You then put that on put it on a laminated card and give everybody that, and I don't mean just salespeople, everyone in the business should know how to say this about your company, and then everyone becomes part of that sales force. Let me give you a great example. So there's a company in Ireland. They are a team building company. The van driver who used to drop the equipment off at these team building events was packing up the van one day, and this guy walks up and says, "Sorry, I see all this really interesting equipment. What do you guys do?" And again, this guy is not just a van driver. I'm not saying that, but he's not a salesperson. He just packs some vans up and loads them up and drops them off at a venue. He reeled off the one-liner. This guy turned out to be a senior individual at Coca-Cola. They ended up booking and spending the equivalent of over £1 million with these guys over the 18 months that followed, because he was like, "That's really interesting. Can I take a card?" And he had actually given him like a business card, like a generic business card, and he got in touch with them. That's the power of a one-liner. It has the power to change, to turn your entire workforce into a sales team.
That's such a good story of just how tweaking a one-liner can, result in so much revenue.
Amazing.
Okay, we've got one from, I think, Dua. So thank you very much. So if you can look at on chat, Matt. So the problem, it's time to take care of our hands dried out by the successive washes. Solutions, we are pleased to share our 5-step ritual to offer you the ultimate self-care solution using X brand success. This ritual will be your guide to nourish, protect, and keep you feeling pampered.
Where can I see this, Liam?
In chat.
Question and answer, open, answered, dismissed. I don't see it.
It's in the chat section.
Okay, hold on. I'm gonna stop Q&A. Stop the share.
No worries. Can you see chat now?
Okay, got it now. For some reason, I couldn't see that.
No worries.
All right, so let me see. So problem, it's time to take care of our hands dried out by the successive washes. Solution, we are pleased to share our 5-step ritual to offer you ultimate self-care solution using. Okay, so let's take that in 3 parts. So it's time to take care of your hands dried out by the successive washes. Not bad, you're talking about dried out hands, but I would go 1 step further. So if I have dry hands, what does that cause me to feel? What's the internal emotion as a result of that? That's how I would look to improve that. So rather than it's time to take care of our hands, dried, cracked hands may cause you to feel something, or may result in some discomfort or embarrassment, or in some way, shape, or form. Solution, we are pleased to share our 5-step ritual. So when you wordsmith these things, try to take out words that don't add value to the sentence. So we are pleased to share, I would actually get rid of. So we have a 5-step ritual to offer you to offer you the ultimate self-care solution. So we have an ultimate 5-step ritual. I would, rather than saying to offer you the ultimate self-care solution, I might say to help you to ensure that you don't have to suffer from this embarrassment in the future. Or we have a 5 steps ritual to offer you. You don't need to say much more than that. And then the success would be so that this ritual will keep your hands nourished, protected, and feeling pampered. So the last bit is brilliant. So I think it's pretty close. I think that's a great first attempt.
There's a couple here. I'll let
try
you
and go on.
There was just a couple here I'll let you pick from Bradley or Raoul. So have a look and let me know which one you want to include. Thanks a lot, guys, for all of your comments. I think we'll have to stop it at the last one with Matt.
Okay, Bradley, many people don't. Okay, let's have a look. So many people do not have time or interest to spend at car washes and getting cars cleaned. We have a liquid glass technology that is easily applied and lasts for up to 2 years. People can protect their cars and importantly save time by applying striker coatings. Okay, so the first bit, people do not have time or just spend. I think that's good, as in it speaks to the problem of time. So one of the biggest frustrations that a lot of people have to do with anything is time. So people want more time, right? So I might mention it can be incredibly frustrating. Nobody wants to waste time being a car, go and take their car for a wash. So, but I think it's pretty good. We have a liquid gas technology. That's great. We have a liquid glass technology that is easily applied and lasts for up to 2 years. Okay, so one of the gaps here is, so you've opened up with spending time at a car wash, getting your car cleaned. The liquid glass technology that's easily applied and lasts for up to 2 years. So my first response is, so that can keep my car clean for 2 years, or is that just the glass? Is that just the windscreens? There's a slight disconnect. So it needs to flow through the one liner. It needs to be all connected together. So whatever the problem you state, the solution must be a resolution to that problem. And if there's any kind of doubt in my mind, that can undermine it a little bit. So, and that's probably explainable. I don't mean to downplay what you guys do. It's just I'm sitting here wondering myself. People can protect their cars and importantly save time by applying striker coatings. I think there's something more. I think you could go bigger on that success. So think about why does someone buy a really nice, why does someone spend more money on one car than another? Cars are status symbols. Cars make your neighbors will look at your car, your friends your colleagues will look at your car, and a dirty car versus a clean car, that creates a certain impression. And I think there's something there in terms of to survive and thrive is, a lot of that is down to status, reputation, how do people perceive me? I would try and tap into the perception that you help people create. So you don't sell, what you're not selling is coating to protect cars. What you're selling is the ability for someone to have a beautiful looking car wherever they might be, or whenever they pull up to that next meeting, or when they pull up to the hotel, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
But I think that's actually what you're selling as opposed to just car coating. But I think it's got the basis of a great start. Do you want me just to do the last one? What is it? 12:52.
Yeah, go for it. Go for it.
Okay, so we understand the impact of COVID-19 on your financials, and many of our clients are frustrated with understanding what the regulatory guidelines would say in the coming months. Our automated calculation tool can help you build your models more appropriately, and we are more than happy to provide a demo for you. Okay, so first thing, we understand the impact of COVID-19 on your financials. Understanding what the rates. Okay, so I think within there, I think there's just too many words. So if I'm understanding correctly, something to do with the regulatory guidelines and understanding that in light of the COVID-19 situation. So I think that first piece just needs to be wordsmithed to be shorter, because it's quite a mouthful, and I'm struggling to get, is this about regulatory guidelines or something I need to understand that perhaps I don't, that might be causing me a problem? It's a little vague. I think it just needs to be a little bit more specific. The next bit I like though, so our automated calculation tool can help you build your models more appropriately. Great. Although more appropriately seems a little bit weak for the end of that sentence. You know, you could just end with, we have an automated calculation tool that can help you build those models, and then so that success. So we are more, but we are more than happy to provide you a demo. That's not success. That's what you're going to do. What you need to say at the end of that is, what does success look like if I use your automated model? So that's how I would end that one-liner.
Nice.
All right.
Good stuff. So I'll just go back into my screen now. Thanks a lot for everyone's input. That was amazing. In terms of, I think, given that we've gone a bit over time, just your final thoughts. I mean, I think today's been so insightful. You've offered a lot of information, but if there was sort of 2 or 3 things that you would say are key tips that you could probably implement this afternoon and beyond, what do you think they would be?
Okay. Play the guide, not the hero. In any conversation with anyone, in any kind of sales context, try and play the guide. Characteristics are empathy and authority. Don't make yourself the hero of any conversation. That would be the first one. Work on that one-liner and then practice it with people. I would say talk to colleagues. Try and nail that one-liner, because that can be the difference. And then finally make sure you're tailoring that in the context of this situation that we find ourselves in. Just be hugely cautious and conscious of the far deeper issues when it comes to survival and thriving that we all find ourselves in at the moment.
Cool. Matt, thanks a lot for your time. I think that was really, really helpful. And guys,
no worries, guys.
Feedback, it'd be great. Include it into the chat now, or include it into info@kinfitz.com. Just finally from me, help grow the community. I just saw that I think Jean had put in a link to get the community added into him and his LinkedIn profile. We'll share out the links for the community. Please spread the news about what we're trying to do. I think there'll probably be people in our network that are on unpaid leave or that may have lost their jobs. If there's something that we can do to help, please share the information that we can do. And this session has been great, and we want to add more sessions. If you've got any feedback about what you would like in terms of direction, where we can help, email myself or my business partner Ben. We really want to create something that's sort of made by a community of people. So if there's anything that you feel that you'd like us to cover, please do. We really want to see where we can add value. Thanks a lot. I know I overran a little bit, but I think what Matt's produced today has been really helpful. If you've got any comments, please let us know. Have a great rest of the week. Hit your targets, and let's push hard and hope that everyone can be in a position by next Monday and be in a better place. So thanks a lot, guys. Have a great day.